not Gene. So I'll give you a really quick story about Gene Gurkoff. I'm going to let him introduce himself. Many years ago, I had a podcast called Social Geek Radio, and I don't know if you ladies even know I had that. So on the podcast, my co-host would always do a Geek It Out segment, and she would introduce an app or a social website that we needed to know about, but it wasn't really that popular yet. During that podcast, we did charity miles. And if I'm not mistaken, Gene, you correct me if I'm wrong, Gene was told by a friend, hey, Gene, somebody's doing a podcast about your app. And then Gene found us, connected with me. We had him as a guest. We've done charity miles walks together. I've had the app forever. I think, Gene, the app says I'm close to 5,000 miles.
Incredible.
I'm wearing one of his original Charity Miles shirts from back in 2012, where Gene and I organized a Charity Miles walk in New York City. I just posted that on Facebook today, where we did a walk with a friend for a friend. A friend of mine was suffering from lymphoma. And we gathered from Texas, New Jersey, France. We had someone from France with us. Some of us had never met each other before, but we all used the Charity Miles app, and we walked together throughout New York City for the day. So, Gene, with that said, I'm so excited to have you here. He's like my adopted son. Tell us, let everybody else know who you are, how you started the app, where it is today, because back when I first joined, you had maybe 7 charities. It was just a few.
Yep.
So I'll let you go from here.
Thank you so much, Deb, and thanks everybody for being here. I'm so excited to be here. Deb is really one of my favorite people and such an important part of the Charity Miles community, the Charity Miles journey, and my journey and my development personally over the last 11 years of doing this. And she's right. So the way that I was on Twitter, and somebody, I don't know who it was, tweeted like, hey, Charity Miles, you're on, what was it, Cause Talk Radio.
Social Geek Radio podcast.
Geek Radio.
Yes.
And like it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I like clicked the link and I like listened to the whole thing. It was like a long, and my wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, somebody said I'm on this podcast. And so I'm like listening to it, and then they talked about Charity Miles, and I was like, I felt like a celebrity. It was such a big moment for me, and reached out to Deb and AK, her co-host, and you know, it just made such an impact on me personally that there was other people out there that were joining our community and that loved it, and that made me feel so good about what we were doing, and getting to meet Deb and her friends in New York City. And by the way, I told my mom that I'm going to be seeing
Hi, Stevie.
So like, you know, Deb and like my mom are friends, like, you know, it's all, we're like a family run operation. So, and Charity Miles is completely community driven. We're a really small company. We don't advertise. We don't have a big budget or anything. And so to the extent that we have any success, it's because of people like Deb who came into the community and are the ones that are driving the train. They're the ones who are sharing it with their friends and organizing events like this, and, you know, wearing their shirts out in public. And it's just how it grows. Like I don't have any social media savvy. I don't have any marketing savvy or budget. It's all community driven. And Deb is really one of the first people that made that happen. So I'm just forever grateful to Deb. And just feel very lucky that we're friends.
Well, tell us about your grandfather and how you started Charity Miles and the benefits of all the charities. And it benefits me. You know, I always feel, I used to say when I first joined the app, it's like, I felt I let a charity down if I didn't open my app and do a walk for the day. So take us back to the beginning of how you actually established this.
Great. Well, I'll tell you, so I started Charity Miles 11 years ago in honor of my grandfather who had Parkinson's disease. And I'm very fortunate. I have a very close relationship with my grandparents and my parents. And I was raised with a lot of very good examples in my life on what it means to live a good life and give back to the community. And I started when I was in law school 20 years ago, which is crazy that I was in law school 20 years ago. I started running marathons to raise money for Parkinson's disease in honor of my grandfather. That led me to help start Team Fox for the Michael J. Fox Foundation, which is their grassroots fundraising program. And I became their pro bono general counsel. And I was always looking for ways to get more people involved and to get companies involved. And when iPhones came out, I had this idea that I could make an app, and then people like me would be on one side of the phone and companies would want to be on the other side of the phone to sponsor our miles. And that was the original idea. But the app itself has not changed that much. The app has changed, but my understanding of what the app is about has totally changed since I started it. So it's interesting to talk about when it started, because sometimes I forget what it was like when I started. But the first thing is that I started it because of my grandfather. But if that's all it was, I would have quit 1,000 times by now. To me, it's about Deb and people like Deb. And I could list hundreds of people that I think about that is what keeps me going, because I have gone broke several times with charity miles. And, I'm sure as many of you experience as, small business entrepreneurs, it's very hard. And I'm sure that there are many times that you want to quit. And, for me, when I get to that moment and, they say, like, think about your why. And if it was just my grandfather, I would have quit. And that doesn't mean I don't love my grandfather. He was my role model, but it's people like Deb, and knowing that Deb is out there, and Grow by Ayers and Noah Barnes and so many people out there that are using it and sharing their story with me and giving me the privilege to be a part of their life and to share their story and their why with me, that keeps me going. So that's one thing that I did not expect at all when I started it. And, it's made my life just so much better. And I could talk for a long time about that.
Well, let's go through. So let's tell everybody how the app functions. So how many charities do you have on the app today?
Well, we started with 10 charity partners.
Okay.
I don't know how many we currently have. I think we're getting close to 100, but we're trying to make it. This is another way that the app has changed. So when I started it, the idea was that we would have some charities in the app. And I was very fortunate that because of the work that I had been doing with Michael J. Fox at my law firm, I was at a very big law firm in New York City, kind of like one of those prototypical, like what you would see in like Suits or something type law firms. And whenever like a partner was on the board of Habitat or Feeding America, I would do a lot of the legal work. So I had relationships with a lot of very big national and international charities. And so when I started Charity Miles, believe it, like they were willing to give it a shot and to trust me. Whereas if I didn't have those relationships, they probably would not have done that. And so we were able to start with 10 really amazing charities. And the idea was that I was going to go out and I was going to get companies to sponsor the app. And then those companies would advertise in the app in like a charity agnostic way. And we would take that advertising money and give it to the charities. And at first that didn't work at all. So we had no sponsors when I started the app. And so my partner and I had a partner, and there's more of a story to that. He's not with the company anymore, but I had a partner. We decided that we would sponsor the app ourselves for the first year, up to $1 million, which I did not have. My partner did. But we were going to split the charitable donation as our investment to get this company going, because all the companies that we met with said, oh, we love the app, but you have no users. So come back to us when you have users. So we figured, okay, we'll sponsor, we'll get users, and then the companies will want to sponsor us. So that's what we did. It was an incredible success. We won the top award at South by Southwest. Deb was my date to the award ceremony at South by Southwest. She came down to come with me to the award ceremony where we won the top award at South by Southwest. We won a whole bunch of other awards. We're written up in every newspaper. And when it came time to pay the charities, my partner backed out, didn't want to pay because we didn't have any sponsors yet. So that was the first time I went broke. And I was just about to shut the company down. We started to get our first sponsors that would advertise in the app. And so that allowed us to kind of keep it going, dig out of the hole. And the only problem was that those sponsors wouldn't write us an unlimited budget. Like they wouldn't write a blank check. So that money would go into a pool, and then we would pay the money out to the charities in proportion to the miles done for each charity. So whatever sponsorship money went into the pool at the end of the year, if Michael J. Fox had 5% of the miles, they would get 5% of that pool. And that was kind of just like what we were limited to. And there was a lot of problems with that. One of the big problems is that we can't show people like how much money they're earning per mile because we don't know until it's like divided up at the end of the year. And the other big problem is that we couldn't add charities to the app because adding charities to the app would dilute the pool for everybody. So like every charity wants to be in Charity Miles. So we've been trying to figure out ways that we could add more charities into the app and support more charities. So that model has really evolved and changed over the years so that we could bring in more charities. And in the last few years, we've just really started bringing in more charities, and we're about to, one of the things that we've added is a partnership with PayPal so that people can do peer-to-peer fundraising where your friends sponsor your miles. And that allows us to support just about any charity that wants to be in the app because it's not limited to what we bring in sponsors. So that partnership with PayPal is also going to, we have a new thing that's coming out where you'll be able to choose from like 100,000 charities that are already in the PayPal system. And so pretty soon we're going to go from like 100 charities to 100,000, which is going to be pretty exciting.
Wow, that is pretty cool. So basically, so everybody that's here with us, you download the app, you go to charitymiles.org, or you go to your app store, you're going to find the app. Yep. When you download the app, at least with my iPhone, I allowed it to connect to my health app. So even if I don't open the app, and Gene, correct me, if I don't open the app and say, well, today I want to walk for the Diabetes Foundation or Health, I said, whatever, my phone health app keeps track of me moving all day long. And I don't know, many of you are like me, my phone is in my pocket. Anytime I'm inside, outside, I'm walking. So it will connect my miles and my steps, and I'm always accumulating steps. So when I look at my health app or look at Charity Miles, it'll say, hey, Deb, you did 2 miles yesterday. And I may have really kind of been a couch potato yesterday, but I did walk around because I walk them down my steps. So I go outside and take the dog for a walk. So I'm always walking or moving for Charity Miles.
Right.
Does it work like with, does it work like if I have a wrist Fitbit that someone just gave me, and when I hook it into the Bluetooth, then the Fitbit counts the miles that I've walked for the day if I'm not holding my phone? Does that, can it connect like that?
Yeah, so this is the app. These are my steps today. I'm walking for Michael J. Fox, and basically these steps are coming in through my Apple Health. Now, any device that I have connected to my Apple Health will come into the app. So if you have a Fitbit connected to Apple Health, Apple Watch, Garmin, Peloton, whatever, it will come in through that. You can also, so you could use it like a pedometer. You don't need anything other than your phone, but if you have another fitness tracker, that's fine. But anything coming in through your Apple Health will come into the app. And then you can also use it to record an activity if you want to record a specific activity. You can also connect it to Strava if anybody is like a Strava user. Couple things that I will say to elaborate on what Deb just said. The only thing that you need to do, your Apple Health is connecting. Apple will not push us the miles. We have to pull the miles from Apple. So in order for us to do that, the only thing that you need to do is open Charity Miles. And that allows us to pull the miles from Apple Health. And the good thing is that we can actually pull up to 30 days in the past of your miles. So if you forget to open Charity Miles for a week or 29 days, and you open it, we can go in and pull all your miles over the last 29 days. Now, that is something that we've built in over the years as a convenience for people, because people would always say, oh, I forgot to do it. And can I get credit for my last mile? So we built that convenience. However, I have mixed feelings about that, because the point for me is not that we're just walking around mindlessly, not thinking about the charity that we're supporting and then getting credit for it.
Right.
Biggest impact that we have in charity miles, and this is another thing that I've learned over the years, the biggest impact that we have is definitely not the money that's being raised for the charity. The money that's being raised is nice and that's important, and charities need money. But the biggest impact that we have is on ourselves. When we tell ourselves a story about what we value and why we are walking for the charities. And if you're just walking around mindlessly, not thinking about it, opening it every 30 days and getting credit, that's not really the point. The point is you're walking and I'm walking and I'm reminding myself, and I'm thinking about my grandfather, and I'm thinking about my son and the world that I want him to grow up in. And I'm thinking about the environment around me when I walk for the Nature Conservancy. And when I'm telling myself that story becomes a lens through which I see the world and through which I filter other decisions that I make in my day. So I don't get plastic bottles, I don't get plastic bags, I don't get straws. I'm much more mindful about what I eat and when I go to sleep and the water I drink, and being patient with my son and being patient with other people if they cut me off on the highway. And it just becomes more a part of who I am. And when I start making all these decisions differently, and when we start making all these decisions differently, that impact is far greater than any amount of money that we could raise for charity. So
That's so cool.
I really, to me, like, we're trying to not just like have you walk around and think, oh, I'm making a few cents for charity and that's enough, because it's not. We need to change the way that we live. So the number one thing that people say about charity miles, that, you know, when we ask them why did they download it, they'll say, oh, I was going to be walking anyway, I might as well do it for charity. And part of me really loves that, because that's kind of why I started the app. But what I've learned is that what we were going to do anyway is how we got into this mess. So all the problems that we're looking to solve, whatever it is because of what we were doing anyway. And nothing changes if nothing changes. So if we really want to make a difference, we need to change things about the way that we live. We can't just do the things that we were going to do anyway. We have to go, what we say in charity miles, we have to go the extra mile. So to me, Deb, I totally, like, we do try to make the app easy to use, and so it can just track your miles, but it really is about how do we make this a part of our life, our identity, and start changing little things in our life and doing those things differently to make a bigger impact.
Absolutely, because I know if I'm not used the app in a while, it's like I feel, as I said earlier, I feel like I'm disappointing a charity, I'm disappointing myself, because I have a reason for it. And I like the function of, well, today I want to walk and think about nature, or today I want to do this. The only thing I noticed when I first moved up here is that when I do open the app, and we have so many areas we don't have service, that the app will drop because it says you don't have service, it's not connected. That's why I like the backup feature that I'm still walking, and it's in my health app. So
so it's if you don't have service, like, that's great. Like, the app will track your miles, and it's very convenient. Like, you don't have to start and stop an activity, you don't have to be a runner. It's about, so the other thing is, my dad always told me, and this is not something that I really even put together until a few years ago, many years into charity miles. Like I said, I was very fortunate, grew up with great parents and grandparents who set a lot of really good examples for me. And my parents were very conscious about trying to set an example about giving back to charity for me. And I got to see them, donating money to charity and volunteering in causes and serving on boards and things like that. And my dad would always say that giving money, or being charitable or being philanthropic, isn't just about giving money to charity. It's about how we walk through life. And I didn't get that until like a few years ago. And that's, to me, what Charity Miles is becoming about, is like, how do we walk through life?
Totally agree. We have a question in the chat from Rebecca. She said, she's asking, do you have any stories from some charities of how your app has benefited those charities? Anything that you can share with us? Or any?
Yeah, I mean, we help charities in a lot of different ways. So one is obviously the money, and different charities are have different metrics, but for example, Feeding America, it's 10 cents is a meal, and we've raised millions of dollars for Feeding America. So that's like tens of millions of meals for Feeding America. Other charity water, I think it's like $20,000 is a well, and we've done hundreds of thousands of dollars for charity water. So that's however many wells, and how that impacts different communities in which those wells are built. Also, though, it's more about like, how do we help the charities grow their grassroots communities so that they have an army of people that is walking for them every day. And if Michael J. Fox has 1,000 people walking for them every day, those 1,000 people are going to be the 1,000 people that are most committed to them, that are most likely to donate, most likely to sign petitions, for example, with Michael J. Fox, like which is who I do most of my miles for, one of the things that they've been working on is called the Parkinson's Progression Marker Initiative, which is to develop a biomarker for Parkinson's disease, because until a few weeks ago, there was no biomarker for Parkinson's. And a biomarker is something that can be objectively measured to measure the progression or regression of a disease. So for example, if you go to the doctor and they take your blood, they can see how much cholesterol is in your blood. And if you have high cholesterol, they can give you a drug, a statin, and see if your cholesterol goes down and measure that to know whether that drug is working or not. With Parkinson's, there's never been anything like that, which makes it very hard for researchers to research and for doctors to treat. And so Michael J. Fox has been trying to develop this biomarker, and they need people to sign up for these clinical trials to develop a biomarker. And we just, not just raising money, but we ask everybody who signs up to walk for Michael J. Fox to sign up for their biomarker initiative. And not just because of us, but because this has been going on for 10 years, they just announced their first biomarker, which is the hugest deal in the Parkinson's community. This totally changes the game for Parkinson's research. And we've had hundreds, if not thousands of people join their biomarker initiative through Charity Miles. So we've had 8 people walk or run across the United States with Charity Miles. One did it barefoot Jake Brown. One did it with Parkinson's disease. One was an 11-year-old boy who walked from Key West. What?
But didn't he start in Colorado?
No, he started in Key West, Florida, and he walked to Blaine, Washington, the northwest tip of Blaine, Washington, over the year. And I walked with him in Denver. I walked with him in Nashville and Denver and in Blaine, Washington. And I'm still in touch with him and his family every week. I can tell you stories about our members. I don't know how long you want this call to go for, but I can tell you stories all day about our members.
Well, and as you said, it connects people, because I don't think you and I had met in person until I decided to walk for our good friend Roz Schaefer, and Rebecca's on the line, and she remembers Roz. And we just said, let's do it in New York. And we had, like I said, a young lady from France and Texas. We had a media firm from Texas join us. And I got to meet Gene and his mom. And I met people that are connected to on Twitter that I've never met before. But we connected for a cause. We connected to walk for Roz. And it was the best day.
It was a great day. And I'll remember it. I mean, I remember it. It was a very big moment for me and Charity, for me personally, and for Charity Miles, that we came together on that day. And there was one time that I went to, Google invited me to go out to their campus to like shoot a video for them. And I went out and I drove, so their office is in Mountain View and my hotel was in San Francisco. So I drove back to my hotel in San Francisco in my little rented car. I rented, the only thing that they had was this tiny little white Mazda Miata. And I'm not a big guy, but I couldn't even like hardly fit in this thing. And I got back to my hotel and I opened Twitter and I see that, or Facebook, and I see that Deb is in Mountain View at Google. And I'm like, what? Called her, drove back out to Mountain View to have dinner with her. Like, it's an incredible community.
Rachel has a question for us.
Yeah, I have an interesting question. I lost my husband God, almost 5 years ago now, to brain cancer. And I've had people in his scout troop or other, people want to do things, but they always wanted to use the GoFundMe or the PayPals or the things that want fees or want to take a big cut out of it. And I never felt comfortable with that. How do you guys work with that? And does most of the money all go to these charities directly without the middlemen getting commission or
Any
stuff?
of the money that goes to the charity. So for the peer-to-peer fundraising part of what we do, we have a partnership with PayPal, the PayPal Giving Fund, and that is what processes the donations to the charities, and they have a 2% fee, which I think is like just the credit card swiping fee.
Okay.
And actually, they're also the ones that power the GoFundMe. So you can, if you wanted to use it for, peer-to-peer fundraising, all the donations, we don't even touch the money. It goes right through PayPal to the charities, and I think PayPal gets a 2% fee.
Okay.
And then of the sponsorship money, we don't take any of the sponsorship money. And each charity would be bringing in their own public sponsors if they wanted to do that. That's another way that we help the charities, is we help them cultivate their corporate partners. And so it's not, like I said, it used to be us bringing in corporate partners, but now when we add charities, we make it so that they can bring in their own, because we don't have enough corporate partners to go around to everybody.
Do the charities have to be health related? Like, he had such a specific, bizarre, form of cancer. It's not very often treatable or curable or things like that, but scouting was his big thing. Can it somehow be attached to Philmont Scout Reservation or something like that? Or does it have to be a health related charity?
It does not have to be a health related charity. At the moment, so we would basically, if a charity wants to be in the app, it has to be part of the PayPal Giving Fund, so that because that's what processes the donation. So if the charity is part of the PayPal Giving Fund, it's super easy. The other questions then, which we would have for the charity, it's not us, we're not vetting them or passing judgment on any charity. It's really up to the charity as to whether or not we would be helpful for them. And it has to be worth their time and their effort to be in the app. So we don't want to. So we would have a conversation with them. We would tell them what we're good at, what we're not good at, and then it would be up to them if they would want to be in the app.
Cool.
Yeah, and everyone, there's something else. Charity Miles has a Charity Miles Champions private Facebook group.
Yep.
And should you decide to download Charity Miles and ask to join part of the group, something that I've learned, and I've connected with a lot of members on that group, is you learn and connect with those why they're walking. Why is Charity Miles important to them? And you get to learn about that. I mean, you've got 9.3 thousand members in that private group.
Yeah, the Facebook group is awesome. The Instagram, I'm kind of over social media. I wish I could delete all my social media. The only reason I keep it is because of the Charity Miles community. And, the things that people post in our Facebook group, that's like I said, I would have quit 1,000 times. But it's because of the things that they share with us in our Facebook group, on Instagram, on Twitter, even on LinkedIn is a big one for us. So it's just a great way to connect with our community and to hear the stories of what people are doing.
Can you change every month or every so often which charity you want the donation to go to?
You can change anytime. And I see that Audra Lori wrote, can you pick more than one charity at a time? You can't pick more than one at a time, but you can change it at any time. So you could, do
spread the love.
Yeah, you can spread the love.
Yeah, that's great.
So I wanted to see this sounding a little bit like how Amazon Smiles used to do. We're already spending money on Amazon, but you can pick a charity. And of course, they took that away. Thank you, Amazon, Jeff Bezos. But is that the concept? You're still, it's a residual amount for the percentile of the charity I pick, for example, for the walking that I'm doing. For the sponsorship, how does the payout, I guess, kind of happen? Can I equate my steps to how much a charity would get, I guess?
It's not really like Amazon Smile, to be honest.
Oh,
I mean, and that's sometimes a lot of charities reach out to us because they think it's going to be like Amazon Smile. That's just going to be passive money that they get. And it can be, I guess, a little bit of passive money, but that's not what we're trying to be.
Okay.
And one of the reasons that, like, I know that you said, oh, thanks, Jeff Bezos, like Jeff Bezos did a bad thing in getting rid of Amazon Smile, but most charities didn't really get anything from Amazon Smile. If you like talk to any of the charities, they're not missing it.
Oh, okay.
A lot of work for the charities to try to get people to sign up for Amazon Smile, and they didn't really get much back. Because it was like 0.5% of your purchases, and that's really not much for like most charities. Even you have to have so many people doing that for it to add up, that you have to be a huge charity for that to add up to any amount of money. But then if you're that big of a charity, the amount of money that that's adding up to is such like a tiny percentage of what you raise anyway. So the charities don't miss Amazon Smile, and we're not set up like that. So the money that the charities get are coming from different sources. One is it's coming from corporate partners, and it's the charity's own corporate partners. So we have a few corporate partners that sponsor charity miles in like a charity agnostic way, but that's a very small amount of money. And so that amount of money, like we don't even, that's mostly for like the charities, like our grandfathered in charities. Now charities bring in their own sponsors, and those sponsors could be given whatever the charity and the sponsor agree on. And whatever that is, the charity's getting 100% of it. So if, the Leukemia Research Foundation is being sponsored by, Lilly Pharmaceuticals, and Lilly Pharmaceuticals is donating $50,000 to them, they're getting $50,000. If, Michael J. Fox is sponsored by Medtronic, and Medtronic is donating, $25,000, they're getting that $25,000. So it's totally between the charity and their sponsor what that donation is. The peer-to-peer fundraising, which is where like, you can share it on Facebook and your friends can donate. That's whatever your friends want to donate, and 100% of that goes to the charities. We don't take it, minus the 2% PayPal fee goes to the charity. So we don't take any part of that. And then the third thing that we do is we have something called our Employee Empowerment Program, which is where companies create private teams for their employees and will sponsor their employees' miles. And we work with hundreds of companies doing this. It's an employee well-being and an employee engagement type of an initiative where companies can have a private team, and they'll say, for every mile we do, we're going to donate X cents up to Y dollars to this charity that we care about, or they could give their employees the choice of a charity. And so when they do that, again, it's totally up to the company as for what they're going to donate, and 100% of the money that they donate goes to the charity. So,
good information. Thank you. Yeah.
That's how the money goes. And we, when charities reach out to us, a lot of times they're reaching out to us with like an Amazon Smile type of a mentality, like, oh, this is good, this is going to be passive. And so like what I was saying to Rebecca, like we would have a call with their charity to see if it's a good fit for them. Because if they're thinking like, oh, this is going to be passive, I want to tell them like, that's not what we're good at. And, what we're good at are these other things where if they want to be a little bit more proactive about it, if they want to cultivate corporate partners, if they want to grow a grassroots community, we can be helpful in those areas. But if you're just coming in passively, it's probably not going to be a good fit.
Very good. Okay, we've had Gene's attention for quite a while now, and I appreciate
Let
it.
him go.
I'm happy. I have my next call, I think, is in 15 minutes, so I'm good.
Okay.
My next call is with Amazon in 15 minutes. Speaking of,
Does anybody else have any questions?
I see people on the chat.
Okay. Yeah. I know Sarah wants to connect with you. She'd love to have you talk to her Rotary. You guys can find Gene on LinkedIn. You can go to charitymiles.org. If you have any questions about the app, Chrissy, did I answer your question about the app and connecting it to your watch? Where'd she go? Oh,
She might
look.
have had to go to a page. Oh, there she is.
Yeah, let me see. Okay.
If you have issues later on, I can help you out, but open up
Okay.
your Apple Health and allow the health to connect to Charity Miles, and it should log your miles with your watch.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just have a couple things. I put my email in the chat here. Anybody wants to email me, please feel free to reach out. One person sent me a direct message that someone in their family was diagnosed with Parkinson's. If that person would like to reach out, I'm happy to connect them with anybody at the Fox Foundation or Parkinson's, or I know a lot of Parkinson's foundations. There's actually a really great organization out in Colorado called the Davis Finney Foundation, which is doing great work on the benefits of exercise in Parkinson's disease. And then the last thing I'll say is, so on Friday, I'm going to Iowa, which I realize is not mountainous. My wife is from Iowa and her mother is retiring. Her mother has been an entrepreneur for 50 years. And she owns a dance school outside of Des Moines where she teaches dance. And she's had this school. Her mother had a school in, where did they go? Like a small town in Iowa. And then she has her own school outside of Des Moines. And she's retiring after like 50 years. And you all remind me a lot of her. She's a strong woman. She got her own business. She's been through all the hardships and she's built this business, and she's now passing it on to one of her students who became a teacher at her school. And, you know, there's this weird thing that I've kind of tangentially experienced with Charity Miles when there's like articles about social entrepreneurs. And it's, you know, we often kind of get wrapped into those articles where it's like, oh, here's social entrepreneurs or here's social good companies. And it's like, you know, us and maybe Warby Parker and Tom Shoes and things like that. I think that my mother-in-law is like the best example of a social entrepreneur. She has a dance school. Hundreds of girls go through her school every year. She's teaching them confidence. She's teaching them about their abilities and their bodies and how to be strong women. And you think about all the girls that she's impacted over 50 years and what those girls have done to do in life. And like, I get a little bit emotional thinking about it. And, you know, that's what you are all doing too. And it's a tremendous honor for me to be here today and you know, for Deb, for you to be in my life and to meet all of you today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It sounds like an amazing thing that started just out of love for Grandpa, and we all gotta appreciate that for sure. I'd give anything to have my grandparents back.
Well, thank you, Gene. We'll let
Thank
you
everybody.
go, and I will see you in a couple of weeks.
Cannot wait.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
We'll let
Thank
go.
you.
We have announcements for everybody else if everyone else wants to hang on. Pat, you want to give us some updates on Bailey Days and everything that's happening?
Yes, June 24th and 25th. It's really a huge event. It is $250 to rent a booth for that 2 days. So what Mountain Women does for you in your dues is provide a booth. We're getting kind of filled up. The afternoons are still open on Sunday. If you would like to be there even all day, let me know. You can tell me right now if you want to do anything, or call me 303-919-1020. I'm open to anybody, and if necessary, we will get a second booth, but I need to know that now because the spaces are filling up and we may not be able to get another space. So that and LCell at the end of July is coming up. That's another great event for you to show your products. If anyone was at the Christmas walk and parade, we had a table there and we are looking for the tablecloth with the Mountain Women in Business logo on it. I've had some leads on it, but
Wait a minute, I know, it'll give me a chance to think about who picked it up because it ended up in the Conifer Chamber. And I believe Jill picked it up, but I will track down those emails, but the tablecloth is around, I'll find it.
If not Jill, I know Lana, and I know our wonderful member that sells the kid toys.
Yeah, Nana and Nicole don't have it. I believe Jill has it, but I'll track it down.
Okay.
I remember.
And
okay.
I've got everything else in my extra shed, the table, the
Good.
tent, whatever you guys need, just let